So while I have your attention, you should know to stop blaming us for a condition that you either created and or condoned and start working with us to fix it. My name is Jecorey, born, raised, and proudly still living in the West End of Louisville. I'm also known as 1200 when I'm recording, composing, performing music, mostly hip hop, but of course classical and anything in between. I'm also known as Dada to my 3-year-old, known as Corey to my 13 siblings, which I'm the eldest of, known as Mr. Arthur in public schools, community centers, boys and girls clubs, anywhere there's youth that I'm able to teach and reach. I'm also known as Professor Arthur at Simmons College of Kentucky, our state's first higher education institution for Blacks, and pretty soon I'll be known as Councilman Arthur for Metro Council District 4. That's who I am, that's what I do, and who I represent, what I represent. To experience being Black in America is to experience being misidentified, mistreated, and misunderstood. And by misidentified, I mean we haven't even been Black in America. We've been African, we've been Negro, we've been colored, we've been Afro-American, we've been African-American, and now we Black. But what I would love for us to get to a point of being as far as identification is just American, like so many others. And I can't wait till we get to a day where we're not American descendants of slavery, an institution that totally dehumanized us and really led us to where we are today. We're American, just like anyone and everyone else who is here. That's the misidentification part. When it comes to the mistreatment, not only were we locked down by slavery, but we were locked out by segregation or Jim Crow, legal segregation that gave us inadequate healthcare, inadequate education, inadequate everything in life. And that's why we are also, as Black Americans, as American descendants of slavery, misunderstood. Because the average person doesn't realize those issues that have really laid the foundation for us to get to where we are today. We didn't just wake up one morning and all of a sudden have all Black people concentrated in ghettos across America. We didn't wake up one day as 13% of the population and all of a sudden become 37% of the prison population, 40% of the homeless population, over 50% of the homeless families, 40% of school suspensions. This has been socially engineered over the course of centuries. But somehow today we're in a position where everyone looks at us as if we are lazy, or we need to lift ourselves up by our own bootstraps, or that we need to do better, or that we need to strive more. That's like telling a baby, a newborn baby, to swim across the ocean. They don't have the motor skills and the resources to swim yet. That's what it means to be Black in America. One of my first memories of racism was being in, I think, the 2nd grade, and we were learning about American history. We had to make the Mayflower, and I was not allowed to put anyone on the Mayflower who looked like me. And when we studied the Mayflower and we studied that colony, there was no one who looked like me. Little did I know, when I fast forward in life, we existed there, but it's almost like the Native Americans were pushed to the background. European Americans were pushed to the foreground, and the African Americans were just non-existent. As an artist, I have had the opportunity to perform with professional symphony orchestras across this country. It is rare I am on stage with anyone else Black. Why I gotta be the only Black person on stage? Or when I'm in the public school system, why do I have to be 2% of that? Or the fact that I got my master's degree from the University of Louisville by age 22, and it was looked at as a rarity, because when you look at census data from Parkland, where I'm from, where Muhammad Ali is from, there's a 0% rate in terms of people having graduate degrees. That is racism. Racism ain't got nothing to do with white people in Klan outfits and racial slurs. Racism is really less about the N-word and more about another N-word, which is neglect. And that is racism, when you experience a lack of opportunities whether that's in the arts, whether that's in education, whether that's in housing where we were not given loans, whether that's in land ownership where we were not given land. I mean, racism is when slavery was supposedly abolished. Not only did we get nothing from it, from our pain and suffering, there was land and grants given to the people who owned us. That is racism in its finest. And you could almost relate that to today when we have a situation where Breonna Taylor is killed and her family gets restitution. Black Louisville has gotten nothing at this point, as collectively, anything of substance. And now we're about to give police officers money to live in our neighborhoods after they've traumatized us. Why are we always talking about having a seat at the table? I don't think I've ever heard a white person use that terminology about our tables. Desegregation created an opportunity to have access to everyone's everything. But what it did was, we went from having our own schools, our own businesses, our own X, Y, and Z that were inadequate. But now when we can go into the white store across town that's better quality, better stock, better everything, we go over there, our business lose the support that we barely had anyway because we don't have any wealth. We go to the white schools, we go out of our community. So I don't like using the analogy of having a seat at the table because I'm thinking about having our own table and beyond the table, having our own everything. I live in Russell where only 18% of the land is owned by people who actually live there. And in case you don't know where Russell is, it's west of downtown and it's a black neighborhood, 91% black. We don't own our neighborhood that we live in. And it blows my mind because my closest homies growing up were from Beecher Terrace housing projects in Russell, and gangs dying and shooting over these streets and territories that we don't own. We don't need to see more black faces and white spaces. We need black spaces. And we can all go into each other's spaces. We can all break down those barriers when we all have something to offer. I want to do business. I don't want to do charity anymore. But we will never get to that point without wealth. And that's why I preach about reparations, because the slave owners got it, Native Americans got it, Japanese Americans got it, our Jewish brothers and sisters got it, not only overseas, but here. But how come we ain't got it? How come we, in a few weeks, found money to give to people for COVID-19, but in a few centuries, we haven't found money to give to people because of 1619, which is when the slave trade started in this country. So as far as feeling the struggle of this moment and the past moments we've always had throughout history, I don't feel tired, I feel fired. I feel energized, I feel motivated, determined to do something about it in ways that have never been done before. I care less about educating you about the problems and just solving the problems. Because when slavery was abolished, there were plenty of people who had a problem with it. When Jim Crow or segregation was collapsing, there were plenty of people who had a problem with it, who didn't understand, who weren't educated. So I'm not naive enough to think that every person, white or whatever color, who's not black, is going to understand this moment and understand what needs to happen. That's a pipe dream. And I really don't care, and I don't think we collectively care if you understand. It's not about understanding, it's about progressing. And we are going to progress whether you understand or not. Now I'm aware that it's going to take some level of understanding to get laws passed. It'll take some understanding to get reparations paid. It will take some understanding to see that progress. But we can't keep using that as an excuse. Because in many cases, people know. They just don't care to know or to do anything about it.